Welcome back to Master Guitar on Synthesizer Saturday. So today we're going to take a look at the Minimoog. Now of course I don't have a Minimoog. When I made my big purchase from Sweetwater, I only had a budget of $2,400 or so. You all saw my initial tryout of this thing. Let's go through the signal path, and that way you can kind of understand why you can't get a sound out of it at first. You actually have to turn some things up to do it. Over here you've got your modulation section. And then you've got the pitch control. Alright, got it back in tune. This of course is the Behringer one I just did the one on the Odyssey, and I never talked about the sequencer. There's a built-in sequencer both on the Behringer Odyssey and the Behringer Minimoog, where they call it the Poly D. But this is, for all intents and purposes, it's a Minimoog. So, which is so weird because of course when I was growing up we called it the Minimoog. We didn't know any better, we thought it was the Minimoog. Over here you've got your tuning section. That includes a modulation area where I can choose if I want it to be. Make this an LFO. Now, do you hear that ticking sound you heard in there? That's the LFO. So that's something to play with, is to get into that. But first, we'll talk about what an LFO is, what it does. I have my other battery standing by because this one's at 21%. Battery's right there. So I'm going to leave it on my Arturia key step so we can talk about it. So, modulation section. This is our modulation section. I'm going to put this back on the oscillators. Take it back off of the LFO. And so I can choose whether I want this in mono mode, which is right now. Now what I can do is I can also do the uni mode. And what that does is that will borrow when you're in the uni mode. You hear how that's big heavy sound? And then what it does is it takes away from all four oscillators on this one note to it now designates one oscillator to the second note, or two of them. So when I add a third one, I now am borrowing one more oscillator just to this note. And then when I do 5, I have one oscillator per note. So complicated, but there you go. So we talked a little bit about having it in uni mode. So poly mode is just, do you hear that? The difference? That's 4 oscillators. That's 1 oscillator. It's just a different way of doing it. Normally what I'll do is I'll leave it in the uni mode if I want to play chords. Because then it sounds more like, you know, the Minimoog. Is it really a Minimoog? Because the Minimoog only had 3 oscillators. Here's your master tune. Master tune was mostly for this one, and then the variations are these completely in tune with number 1. So all you had was this oscillator, and this oscillator. It's really easy to, let me show you. It doesn't take a whole lot to hit one of these and send it out of tune. So, okay, so let's deal with our first sound. We'll go right to the triangle. Now there's a huge volume difference, and I'll actually turn it up on my amp. because this is the Lucky Man sound. The big difference, as I was saying with this, is you have a fourth oscillator just to make the sound that much bigger, and of course you can also use this as an LFO. You can use any of these as an LFO to shape your sound, so you can have all kinds of shakiness in there. Now each of your oscillators has an individual volume control. I've just found on mine, oscillator 4 tends to be much louder most of the time than the other ones. So I'll keep it usually on about 4 or so. So what is this? This is my pink noise or white noise control. Again, just like I showed on the, that's pink noise, that's taking out most of the fundamental overtones. So if I turn off the other oscillators, so, and you can turn that right off. So these are all 4 of my oscillators in one spot. It's kind of set up a little bit different from the Odyssey, where we had the 2 Odyssey. You have one VCO right there, one VCO right there. They just, on the Minimoog, put them all in one spot. So. Also, the other big difference is that the Odyssey is duophonic and the Minimoog is monophonic. So in other words, if I play this A note here and I play an E note here, it has high note superiority. In other words, the higher note will always cut away the lower note. The Odyssey being duophonic means you would hear both notes at the same time. Next, we're going to shape our triangle wave slightly so that it's got, instead of equal volume, equal voltage to both parts of the signal, it now is going to be instant full-on voltage, and then it drops off quickly. Hear the sound? Now I've got a much faster hit on the volume. And now it starts hearing the filter a little bit better. This is basically your mixer, and we're passing everything from your mixer into, this is my VCF, or it's just called on here filter. So you have the cutoff frequency. I found once you get up about halfway in the scene, you almost can't hear what it's doing anymore. And I usually leave it there, and then the amount of contour. So that's full on at once with drop, and that's more towards the drop. I'm usually using that. And then you can, this is my ADSR right here, my attack, decay, and sustain, and release is just a switch. So this is my setting up my envelope inside the filter, and then this is my actual loudness envelope. See how it's much more responsive on the attack than on the ARP styles. Big fade in. So if you really want dramatic, go to this. Now I tend to leave my Minimoog set right about there, about 200 on the attack, so that way it's not and then basically I won't adjust my envelope at all on here, either the one within the filter or the actual amplitude one. So the other thing we got to worry about now is the sequencer, which I haven't messed with yet. That was always something that I always imagined myself using a lot, but I actually don't use the sequencer all that much. I could actually record that into my sequencer and then just at the hit of a button, play it. I don't know how that got recorded in there, but that's kind of cool. But I can also hit this and I can slow the tempo down. I don't know, maybe it comes with that, or maybe just with all my plinking on the thing, because I'm playing this thing a lot, almost every day. Sorry, I started playing the thing again. So I got a distortion circuit up here. Now remember, my tuning over here, this is on what's called 32 foot. This is the lowest. That's on my lowest tuning. Now I can bring this up to 16 foot, which is a 1 octave jump. Another octave jump. That's 4 foot. 2 foot is another octave. Now I've transposed it another octave, and then watch your ears. Yeah, don't do that live. But most of the time I'm leaving it right down here in 32 because I tend to like synths for basses. So let me turn off the distortion. Think about how awesome that is. So when you got the drums coming in, something with some double bass action, a lot of tom work, Right away, you can see this thing's pretty usable. You just gotta, it helps when you don't have a tripod in the way. All right, so one of the things we haven't talked about, I talked about it on my simple introduction to the Minimoog, was I talked about the chorus circuit. Now remember, the Minimoog does not have the sequencer. It does not have the built-in chorus section. It doesn't have the distortion section. It doesn't have the poly mode. It doesn't have the uni mode. All it's got is just your monophonic. This is all Behringer innovations, and so I got this thing for $700. It's probably about $850 now, but compare that to a $3,995 Moog Minimoog that doesn't have any of these innovations. So this is can you hear the difference once I kick the chorus on? It's very noticeable. And you have a faster chorus, is chorus 2. And then before I bought any of these, I watched as many videos as I could on should I buy the synth, so one of the things I watched all the Tim Shoebridge ones on the Poly D. He loves his Poly D. There's a couple things he didn't like about it, but thanks to his video, I basically leave this switch on because his switch, there was something wrong with it and it was kind of bugging him. So he just said, I'll just leave this on and I'll work my chorus through that. And I did agree with Tim Shoebridge that that's not really a sound I can use much, but I suppose it does have its uses, but for the most part, it's just going to be chorus 1 for me. That nice, slow. You can see the classical piano stuff's kind of rubbed off on my synth playing. But anyway, real simple explanation. I'm not going to so much do the big long one, but I just wanted to give somewhat of a longer impact on the Poly D and some of the sounds it has. So let's go ahead and go to our next. Got our shark fin setting. That'd be a great song. Then we got our square waves. This is your standard square wave, because now we've gone through saw, we've gone through triangle into saw, and now we're into our square waves. Huge volume difference on that. This is the saw wave, and then you've got a ramped saw wave. Somewhat more live sound, but notice how it kind of really accentuates the chorus. Let's go to the final of our square waves, and this is the all the way in square wave. So it reaches the height of the square immediately and then drops off. Ah! Ah! See how much easier it is to play this thing without a tripod in the way. There. So, that's a quick run through of all your oscillators. I'll usually leave it just on saw wave, or sometimes I'll spend entire weeks playing it on triangle wave. And then now be advised, as soon as you turn this off, your chorus circuit is going to go out. So you'll turn it on, let it warm up, come over here and start. And you're like, why does it sound so? Oh, my chorus is off. So there you go. The tuning, the oscillators, the waveforms of the oscillators. This is your volume mixer. We talked about that. I showed a little bit about how to use your cutoff frequency, the emphasis, amount of contour, and of course, to make a sweep, all you're doing is depending on whether or not you're using your attack, is whether it will wow into it or just be a straight drop on your filter. And yes, you can get this thing ridiculously loud. So, comment, like, subscribe. If there's anything you'd like to add, favorite sound settings you do, want to talk about the sequencer, want to come in here and say, no, you gotta have the Moog version or it's not a real Moog. If you absolutely hate the Poly D, remember the Poly D came out when Moog reintroduced the Minimoog, and they got 10,000 orders for it, and they could only fill like, I don't know, 500, 1,000, and so they just discontinued it without word. Now they decide, okay, we're ready to do it again, but now we're going to charge $4,000 for a $800 synthesizer. If you don't like the fact that Behringer has reintroduced it, then say so. I personally think, you know, Behringer's hashtag is "We Hear You," and obviously, if it weren't in demand, they wouldn't be making it. Comment, like, subscribe. We will see you next time. Bye.